Hello fellow classmates, we are Team Communication. Our presentation is divided into three parts: communication flows, nonverbal communication, and cross-cultural communication. As we all know, communication is important in everyday life. However, it is particularly important in the work environment. It is the key to success. Communication is divided into three types of flows: downward, upward, and lateral communication. Downward communication follows the chain of command from top to bottom. It is more specifically when higher level personnel communicate information such as policies, strategies, objectives, and technical developments to lower level personnel. It is important for superiors to share such information as to reduce the flow of inaccurate communication and false rumors. A positive outcome of this is the empowering effect that is brought upon lower-level employees, as it makes them feel secure and more involved in the business. When there is no downward communication between the superiors and the subordinates, it can result in unsatisfied employees, hence is regarded as management failure. Statistics reveal that 64% of employees think that management's say is untruthful. 61% had the impression of not being aware of the plans of the company, and 54% argued that the decisions explained were not clear. Upward communication is the flow of messages from lower to higher organizational levels. It is mainly used by subordinates to inform their superiors about problems in the work environment, results, suggestions, questions, and needs within the workplace. This type of communication is important because it keeps the higher level personnel informed of the work being done by the lower level personnel. However, this can be a problem if the employees specifically choose what to say to their employer. In other words, filter the information of what is happening in the organization. Lateral communication is defined as the flow of messages at the same levels across organizations. It is used to coordinate problems, needs, advice, and feedback between employees on the same level of the chain of command. It is important to use lateral communication in an organization so that information between employees be verified and spread rapidly. Committees within departments can be formed to promote communication across functional boundaries. Lateral communication is necessary to provide the right information between employees on the same level of chain of command. Another interesting and important topic to look at nowadays is called flaming. Here is an example of what flaming is about.
Oh my gosh, I have a super idea. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow.
Your ideas are never good anyway. Might as well not even think about it.
Oh my gosh, how rude. She would have never told me that face to face.
What you have just seen is an example of flaming. Flaming is described as the rudeness when using email or other forms of electronic communication. In this scene, Miriam is eager to share her idea with her coworker, yet Claudie is not as enthusiastic and is actually very blunt about not wanting Miriam to share her ideas. Miriam is clearly surprised about Claudie's reaction and thinks that she would have never told her this in person. This shows that it is way easier to be blunt, overly critical, and insensitive when conveying messages electronically rather than face-to-face. It also makes people less inhibited and more impatient in what they say. The following causes of flaming are the most frequently observed in electronic communication: obsessive messaging, being vague or overgeneralizing, and no response or lack of a timely response. Messaging can be regarded as obsessive when a person sends a considerable amount of messages in a certain amount of time. It can also be considered obsessive when messages are too long or tend to deviate from the main subject. Obsessive messaging was observed in this short video as the high frequency of incoming text messages. We can see from the person's emotion that she is frustrated because she constantly receives text messages which interrupts her work. Sending many messages at a high frequency rate may also reduce the ability for one to assimilate every message properly, also causing frustration, therefore promoting flaming. A different cause of flaming can be due to a person being vague in her messages or overgeneralizing it. The recipient of the message expects straightforward and clear messages, yet is frustrated to type or text to ask for further explanations.
Send. Gosh, what's taking so long? She must be in the shower or something. But she always has her cell on her, even in the shower.
A very common cause of flaming is the lack of a timely response. Nowadays, the motto is that time is precious, and since North Americans are living in the fast life, they expect and are used to fast responses. Receiving messages at an unpredictable rate may cause frustration because one may carry on to something else and must interrupt this activity to go back to the conversation. In this way, the conversation may start suffering from flaming due to the growing impatience of the recipient of the message. A different aspect of electronic communication is the use of smileys. Whether a person decides to add smileys to its message or not can make a great difference in the recipient's perception of the message itself. For example, "Are you on your way?" This phrase is emotionless and leaves a white space for perception. Now, this phrase establishes a friendlier atmosphere. The happy face gives the impression that the sender is relaxed and eager to see the other person. This phrase establishes a state of worry. The sender seems to be worried that the person might be late. This phrase establishes a state of frustration. The sender is definitely mad at the recipient. Therefore, smileys in electronic communication brings emotion to the text and reduces the chance of misinterpretation one could have. In Mumbai, India, two people from two different companies meet in a restaurant to close a deal. This is an appointment with an Indian businessman who possesses many call centers in India and a Canadian businessman who works for a cell phone company in Canada.
Namaste, my friend. How are you? I'm Jamal.
I'm Eric, but what does it mean, Namaste?
It's mean good evening.
Okay, great, thank you.
So there's a table.
Okay, great.
Oh. No, it's okay. Just sit. So, how was your trip, my friend?
It was not a little bit, but everything was fine, everything was great.
Okay, so you're here to close the deal, right?
Yes, here's the contract, everything's in there.
Thank
but,
you.
We gotta make it fast, because I'm in a hurry, so please.
Okay, sure. Okay. I'm not sure about some things here. I need to check it with my team.
You don't have to be unsure about something. I thought we made it clear.
Do you think I'm lying? I just want this contract to be done like you, but there's something I'm not sure about. I need to check it with my team, like I said.
No, but I flew all this way from Canada to receive that kind of answer?
No, my friend, I'm not saying this. I'm saying that we need more time. We need to check it with my team. I know you double check it, but we need to get the work done, you know?
Je me souviens de quoi. checked it and triple checked it. There's nothing to be worried about, I'm telling you.
No, I know, but we're never too sure, you know?
Okay, then let me know when you're sure, because right now I'm thinking that you're wasting my time.
How can you say that? I'm trying to make this deal work. It's like you. And you're complaining?
I'm not complaining, you're the one who's doubting.
Okay then, tell your boss this deal is on hold.
The first cultural clash encountered in this meeting was when Eric sat before Jamal was seated at the table. Considering that the appointment was in India, it is very important that the elders sit before anybody else is seated. In this video, Eric sat before Jamal, who is older. Jamal was a little bit surprised, and Eric quickly realized that it was not culturally right for him to sit before Jamal. It is also very impolite to leave leftovers in the plate and talking at the same time as eating. The problem in this appointment is that Eric, the Canadian, did not inform himself on Jamal's culture before meeting him. Both businessmen have different cultural backgrounds, and therefore it is important for both to have a good knowledge of each other's culture, especially in a business meeting, so that they can understand each other better and let no cultural clash interrupt the meeting. What is expected in Canada isn't the same as in India. In Eric's point of view, he thinks that Jamal isn't capable of fulfilling this contract and getting it done on time. Yet, in Jamal's culture, they like to take their time and check every little aspect in the contract. This misunderstanding has caused a bit of tension between Eric and Jamal. Eric thinks that Jamal was not interested at all by his project and feels he was wasting his time in Mumbai. But in Jamal's mind, it is different because he is trying to see whether the project is realistic or not and whether he can do it in time by analyzing all the details. This makes Eric very impatient and a bit angry. Eric's reaction also has an effect on Jamal, creating doubt concerning the decision-making of the contract because Eric is not respecting Jamal's cultural need for more time to analyze everything. India is very hierarchical and always gives the biggest respect to people who are considered more powerful in the system, like Jamal in his company. Nonverbal communication is a term that includes all aspects in a communication process that do not include words. Surprisingly, about 93% of a communication is unsaid, which explains why a large part of the meaning is left to the interpretation of the receiver. Nonverbal communication is described through two broad themes: kinetics, which are the study of the body just as the face, the torso, the legs, etc., and the proxemics, which are concentrated on the space just as position and personal space. Words, the literal meaning, account for 7% of the overall message. Tone of voice accounts for 38% of the overall message. Body language accounts for 55% of the overall message. Indeed, nonverbal communication can be described as a universal language since it is mostly due to unconscious body movements. Therefore, all human beings use nonverbal language in all communications. However, the fact that sometimes misunderstanding happens is explained by the influence of the interpretation of those body movements. Kinetics, the study of nonverbal, is not an exact science since the interpretation of the body language is highly subjective and is strongly affected by different factors such as personality, environment, gender, culture, and many more. Those factors need to be considered in any interaction since misinterpretation can cause differences in the meaning of the sender's message and what the receiver perceives. Thus, nonverbal communication is genuinely related to perceptions and attitudes. The difference between men and women lies on the fact that in general, women tend to be more aware of subtle signs, of body language. Having more of this nurtured personality, women seem to have a better social understanding. The majority of people can understand the body language, yet some are better than others. It is proven that people having most facility in interpersonal relationships are the ones who are comfortable in decoding body language. However, people who do not have any social aptitudes and are unable to associate words with the corresponding body language and voice tone are often diagnosed with a mental health issue. Asperger's syndrome is the most common mental illness associated with social inability and nonverbal communication. In contrary to other people who understand nonverbal, those who suffer from Asperger's syndrome need to learn to identify, understand, and interpret nonverbal on a daily basis. Another important aspect of communication is silence. Indeed, silence accompanies nonverbal and is often heavy in terms of meaning. For example, a person showing authority and superiority may use a long and heavy silence to demonstrate to his peers that he is in charge, such as a teacher asking for silence by being silent. The term proxemics was widely used by the anthropologist Edward T. Hall and refers to the study of men's uses of space. The space that he maintains between himself and his fellows and which he builds around him in his home and office. Proxemics is all about nonverbal communication among people in terms of distance instead of words or gestures. The study of space when observing human interaction can tell a lot about people's relationships. Indeed, Hall has described 4 different categories of spatial distances depending on the relationship status among the individuals, such as public space, social space, personal space, and intimate space. This spatial distance respects the idea of concentric circles and defines the level of adequacy to maintain, depending on the type of relationship one wants to carry with another individual. Therefore, very few people are allowed in the intimate circle. Friends and family are maintained in the personal space, acquaintance in the social space, and strangers in the public space. It is important to note that the distance between the spaces are different from one person to another since it is also strongly influenced by culture. For example, a person living in the city is usually more comfortable with strangers being close since this person is accustomed to being in close proximity with others, while someone from the countryside may have more difficulties and have a greater distance for public space. Spaces can also be influenced by different nationalities, such as a North American person who usually has a personal space set at 18 inches, whereas a Japanese person sets it at 36 inches.